Have you ever wondered what would happen if you could take all the sales secrets from the absolute titans of the industry? We're talking Jordan Belfort, Grant Cardone, Alex Hormozi, Jeremy Miner, and distill it all down into one single powerful playbook? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Let's break down the ultimate sales playbook.
So let's get right to the core of it. At the very heart of every single sale, there's this fundamental conflict. Jeremy Miner just nails it when he says all selling is change. But here's the problem, right? Human beings, we don't really like change. We resist it. So your job isn't just to sell a product. It's to become a master at guiding someone through their own resistance to change.
So how are we going to do that? Well, we've built a 4-part framework. First, we're going to cover winning the inner game. Then we'll dive into cracking the buyer's code. After that, it's all about mastering the conversation. And finally, we'll bring it all home by executing the perfect close. This is our roadmap, so let's get started.
Okay, let's start with the most important person in any sales interaction, you. Before you can ever hope to convince a prospect of anything, you have to be absolutely 100% sold on yourself and on the successful outcome of that conversation. This is the foundation of everything. Your internal state, that feeling of absolute certainty and conviction, is the most powerful tool you have because human behavior is driven by belief. And if you don't believe, trust me, they're not going to either. It is truly that simple.
So what does that belief actually sound like? Well, it's that Grant Cardone energy, right? I control my own economy. It's Andy Elliot reminding us that the world rewards certainty, not doubt. You have to walk into every single interaction believing that every prospect can buy, came to buy, and will buy as long as you do your job. You've got to visualize that successful outcome. Like Belfort says, play the whole movie in your head before you even start. This isn't just hype, it's about projecting a level of certainty that people are just naturally drawn to.
Okay, so our own mindset is locked in. Now it's time to shift our focus to the customer. Because if you want to influence their decision, you first have to understand how they make one. This right here is the key that unlocks the entire sale.
And here we come to a fundamental truth of human psychology, something that both Jeremy Miner and Alex Hormozi are constantly hammering home. People buy with emotion. They justify that purchase with logic. All the brain science shows that decisions fire off in the emotional part of the brain first. The logic just comes in later to rationalize a choice that's already been made. Your job? Speak to their emotion first, then give their logical brain all the ammunition it needs to feel good about it.
So how do we build that emotional certainty? Well, Jordan Belfort says it's like a combination lock, and the magic number is 3. He calls it the 3 10s, 3 core beliefs that have to reach a super high level of certainty in a prospect's mind before they'll ever pull the trigger.
These are the 3 pillars. First, the product. They've got to be certain it's the absolute best choice for them. Second, you. They have to trust you and feel a real connection with you personally. And third, the company. They have to trust the organization you represent. If you get a 10 out of 10 on all 3 of these, you've got a sale. But if even one of them is down at a 5 or a 6, the whole thing falls apart.
All right, we've got the inner game down, we understand the buyer's psychology, so now we can get tactical. How do we actually structure the conversation to build that certainty and create real influence? This starts with a critical question you have to ask yourself. Are you a product pusher or a problem finder? This is a huge distinction that Jeremy Miner makes. See, amateurs, they push features. They talk all about what their product does. But the pros? They're problem finders. They ask these amazing questions that help the prospect uncover problems they might not have even known they had, and then they present the solution.
You know, how you communicate is just as important as what you communicate. Jordan Belfort calls this bottled enthusiasm. Now, this isn't about being loud or hyper like some infomercial. No. It's this powerful, controlled energy in your voice that conveys absolute belief and excitement, and it just draws the prospect in.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, Jeremy Miner talks about being the detached expert. This is the posture of an authority figure who doesn't need the sale. And paradoxically, that calm, detached confidence is what makes the prospect lower their guard and actually become more curious and more willing to engage with you. And I love this metaphor from Alex Hormozi. Be like smoke. Think about it. You can't grab smoke. You can't argue with it. When you're constantly asking questions, you avoid making statements that they can disagree with. You stay in control, they do all the talking, and you guide the entire conversation without ever getting into a conflict. So what ties all of this together? Tonality. As Jeremy Miner says here, your tone is how the prospect interprets your real intention. Whether it's Belfort's enthusiasm or Miner's calm authority, a concerned tone builds empathy, a skeptical tone can create doubt. Mastering your tonality is mastering the secret language of influence.
All right, we've laid all the groundwork. Now it is time to bring this thing home. This is where we combine the mindset, the psychology, and the conversation into a system for consistently getting to yes.
And for that, we look to Jordan Belfort's straight line system. It's the ultimate blueprint. Every sale is the same. It starts at the open and it ends at the close. Your job is to move the prospect along that line as efficiently as you can, building certainty for those 310s and expertly deflecting anything that tries to pull you off course.
So what happens when a prospect hits you with, "I need to think about it"? Well, the key insight here from Belfort is that these objections aren't what they seem. They're just smokescreens. They're a polite way of saying, "I'm not certain yet about the product, about you, or about your company."
Alex Hormozi gives us a beautifully simple framework for this. First, you acknowledge their concern. I understand. It just shows you're listening. Second, you associate it with a positive outcome by telling a story about another customer who had the exact same fear but ended up succeeding. And finally, you ask a question that helps them see things from a totally new perspective.
You know, this single quote from Hormozi might just capture the entire philosophy. Sell the vacation, not the plane flight. People don't buy the process, they buy the destination. They don't care about the features, the turbulence, or the cramped seats. They care about the beach. Your entire conversation has to focus on that transformation, on that result. Sell the vacation, not the plane flight. So let's recap the playbook. First, you win the inner game with your own unshakable belief. Second, you crack the buyer's code by remembering people buy on emotion and justify with logic. Third, you master the conversation by being a problem finder, not a product pusher. And fourth, you execute the close by understanding that objections are just smoke screens for uncertainty. Your job is to guide them to a decision.
So I'll leave you with this one question to really think about. Take a hard look at your own sales process. Are you selling what you have, the features and functions of your product, or are you selling where your prospect wants to go, their ultimate destination? The answer to that question will change everything.